All right, let's just jump right in. For so long, we've thought of yoga as, a great way to de-stress and get a little more flexible. But what the science is now showing us is that it's actually something way more powerful. It's a seriously sophisticated tool for regulating your hormones and honestly transforming your whole relationship with your menstrual cycle. So today, we're going to get into the science of how it all works.
Now, think about this question for a second. It completely flips the script, right? Instead of dreading our periods or just seeing them as this monthly inconvenience we have to deal with, what if we saw them as a direct report card on our overall health? Well, the science is suggesting that's exactly what they are.
And look, the latest research is backing this up big time. Your period is considered a primary vital sign, just like your heart rate or your blood pressure. It's a mirror reflecting your physiological balance, your mental resilience, even your metabolic health. So when things feel off, it's not random. It's a signal from your body that something deeper is out of whack.
And these signals, they show up in ways that are, well, super common. We're talking about things like PCOS, really bad PMS, intensely painful periods, or just cycles that are all over the place. These aren't just isolated issues. They're usually the symptoms popping up on the surface that point to a system-wide disruption. And here's the key. They often point back to a single root cause. So, what is that common thread? Well, it almost always comes down to the connection between stress and our hormones. Our modern go-go-go lifestyles are constantly sending alarm signals to our body's master control system, a system that, frankly, was never designed to be switched on 24/7.
And this is the master control panel I'm talking about, the HPO axis. The best way to think of it is like a super important non-stop conversation happening between your brain and your ovaries. The hypothalamus in your brain pings the pituitary gland, which then acts like a messenger, telling your ovaries what to do, when to grow a follicle, when to ovulate, the whole shebang. It is the engine that drives your entire cycle. Okay, but here's the catch. When you're constantly stressed out, your body is just flooded with the stress hormone cortisol. And high cortisol acts like static on that communication line, basically jamming the signals from your brain. The message to the ovaries gets totally scrambled, the HPO axis gets thrown off, and the result is the kind of hormonal chaos that leads to all those symptoms we just talked about. It's a textbook domino effect.
So, if chronic stress is the villain here, how do we fight back? This is where yoga comes in, and not just as a way to relax, but as a direct biological intervention designed to hit the reset button on this entire system.
See, chronic stress keeps us stuck in our sympathetic nervous system. That's our fight or flight mode. In this state, the body's priority is pure survival, not reproduction, so it puts the HPO axis on the back burner. What yoga does, through things like deep breathing and mindful movement, is it literally flips the switch. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest mode. And this is the state where the body finally feels safe enough to say, okay, we can restore normal operations to the HPO axis.
And it's not just about what's happening in the nervous system. The physical poses themselves, they create this amazing squeeze and release action on our endocrine glands. We're talking ovaries, adrenals, the pituitary. This action helps improve blood flow and directly stimulates them to function better. It's a physical tune-up.
Okay, so that's the theory. But what does the actual data say? Let's look at the evidence, because the results are, honestly, pretty incredible.
Just check this out. In clinical studies, after regular yoga practice, women showed a significant drop in cortisol. That's that main stress hormone we've been talking about. The LH/FSH ratio, which is a key marker that's often out of balance with PCOS, starts to normalize. Testosterone levels drop by over 17%, and insulin sensitivity gets better. These aren't just feelings. These are concrete, measurable, biological changes. It proves yoga is actually recalibrating the body's hormonal software.
And here's what that looks like in the real world. In one major study, women who suffered from painful periods saw a 29% decrease in how much pain medication they needed after starting yoga. Almost a third. They just didn't need the pills as often because the yoga was getting to the root cause of the pain itself.
And of course, the benefits just ripple out into every part of life. We're not just talking about less pain, we're talking more energy, better mental health, and being better able to actually show up for your life, for work, for friends. It just goes to show, when you balance your hormones, you upgrade your entire quality of life.
So the evidence is pretty compelling, right? But the question is, how do you actually do this? It's not just about doing any random yoga class, anytime. The most powerful approach is to actually sync your practice with the natural rhythm of your own cycle.
Okay, This right here is a fantastic roadmap. When you're on your period, your energy is naturally lower, so the focus is on restorative, gentle stuff. Then, as your estrogen rises in the follicular phase, your energy builds, so you can embrace more active, creative flows like vinyasa. At ovulation, when you're at your peak, that's a great time for power yoga. And then in the luteal phase, as you're winding down, you shift back to slower, more mindful practices. It's all about honoring your body's energy, not trying to fight against it.
This, of course, brings us to one of the most hotly debated topics in the entire yoga world. You've probably heard a teacher say it. Ladies, no inversions if you're on your period. But what's the real story? What does the science actually say?
So, the traditional view is rooted in a yogic concept called apana vayu, which is basically the body's downward moving energy. The belief was that going upside down would mess with this natural flow. But the scientific rebuttal is pretty solid. Menstruation is driven by uterine contractions. It's not driven by gravity. And the ultimate proof? Female astronauts menstruate totally normally in zero-gravity space. So, the modern consensus isn't some rigid rule. It's much simpler. Listen to your body. If going upside down feels good, go for it. If it doesn't, just skip it.
This quote from the research just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures everything we've been talking about. We're moving way beyond the idea of yoga as just a workout. It's a technology for communicating with and fine-tuning our own biology on a really, really deep level.
And that brings us right back to where we started. If your cycle is a vital sign, then all of its messages, whether they show up as pain or irregularity or mood swings, they aren't problems that need to be silenced. They're an information. So the final question isn't for me, it's for you. What is your body trying to tell you, and how can you start to listen?